Sachtler FSB8 video HUD. Well, I even got it. That's the rather rhetorical question. You need a fluid video head if you want to do any fluid pans or tilts, and with such a head you can do it easily. And yes, the moves you can get are really fluid and stable, although I must say my expectations were a bit bigger. Well, just a tad. So it's really fluid, but I thought it would be a bit better. Anyways, I'd say it's amazing compared to any other video head I have before. Yeah, and I bought it one used on mpb.com. That was my first purchase there. Am I happy? I'd say yes. I haven't saved that much since this is my company expense. When I buy a new gear, I can deduct VAT and deduct income tax from any purchase like that. And in MPB there is no VAT involved, so actually their prices are not that good. But for the accessories, it is still better to buy the gear from them. It is cheaper. It depends if this is better, because then you have no warranty and stuff like that. But it was like at the end like 200 euros cheaper than if I buy new, and especially when I couldn't get any new FSBs 8 either on Polish or German market. It was not available, so it was actually probably the only choice at the moment. But now mystery is solved, because Sachtler introduced FSB8 MK2, so new version with more levels of drag and more levels of the counterweight. But anyway, I'm really pleased with the video head itself. And regarding the MPB experience, it wasn't that good, it wasn't bad. So I have chosen the express delivery. I got the head within less than 24 hours. That's the plus. But the problem was the invoice. So they cannot issue the VAT invoice, but there is a special invoice if you buying for your company. They can issue the invoice for your company, and it took them more than 7 days. I asked them before, because the system does not allow to choose that option. So I asked them on the chat, is it possible to get the invoice for my company? They said yes, it's not a problem. That would be included in the package. It wasn't. There was standard invoice, like the personal one. So I have to contact them, I think 4 times to get it solved. And so from that perspective, it wasn't a good experience. What about their condition rating? It was graded as excellent, so the highest condition they got. So they claim an excellent is almost like new. I wouldn't say that there are few scratches on the head, and also it was quite dusty, so I have to clean it. But regarding how it works, I think it's in a good condition. Even the battery works, so you can lead the light, although I'm not sure how to lead it. There is no info in the manual, so there is the light, but there is no information how to actually turn it on. So I just press randomly and it's eventually turned on, but it's not in the manual how to turn it on. So if anyone knows, let me know in the comments what's the proper way to turn on the light. Now it's off, it's automatically off after a few seconds. So would I buy again from MPB? It depends. Their camera prices are not competitive if you are buying for the company, because if I'm buying with a VAT invoice, then I can deduct the VAT and the income tax, and from them I can only deduct the income tax. So actually their prices are not that competitive to make the difference. So and I'm getting new gear when I'm buying new, so I get a warranty and the gear is new. So But for the accessories like this head, the price was actually better at the end. So in that case, I guess it was reasonable to buy. For sure, it was properly wrapped, so there were like 3 layers of the protective cardboard. It was the thing that emulates the bubble wrap, but it's made from paper. So actually the packaging was made eco way, which is good. Am I happy with the performance? Yes, but except the few corks. The main cork is that what I've seen online, when you got this head, you rise up your tripod, like it's mounted at the moment on the Sachtler FSB8. So in that case, I undo the latches, I raise the right tripod, and then of course it's not leveled. So on any online video I've seen, it's like, yeah, it's awesome, you just undo it, unscrew it, and it's done. Actually, I was like, and it's done. But in most cases, when you're not leveled, you're changing like that, and you're fiddling around for like 10 seconds to get it done properly. This time was quicker. Maybe I'm getting more skilled with this, but my first like 10 tries was like 30 seconds. I was fiddling back and forth. Oh, for example, now it just went bonkers. So I'm moving the bubble inside the circle, it's not centered, I'm moving, and it moved the other way. So it's not that easy as some people claim it is. And my first experience was actually with this Benro tripod, so I thought that maybe there is a small incompatibility with the tripod and the Sachtler head. When I got the Floatech, it's the same story, so it's not the case that the head is not compatible with the ball here, but it's, I guess it is what it is. It is not that easy to adjust after you change the height of the tripod. But I guess I'm getting better and better, so maybe those who showcase this on YouTube, then this is so easy, maybe they got better experiences with it. But sometimes it takes like 30 seconds to line it up. At least 10 if you want to get the bubble totally in the center. One really important thing to know is how the counterweight works. I was surprised by that, but luckily I haven't damaged any gear. Well, basically there are 10 settings on the counterweight, and for this setup 1 kilogram is not enough because it is moving. So you have to set 2 kilograms. So it is freely moving, that there is some resistance to it. The drag is set to 0, but it's still creeping down. But when you switch to 2, you think that it will be locked, but no, it is moving even more freely because the counterweight is not engaged. So when you switch, you have to move back. Now the counterweight is engaged, and now you can leave your gear unattended. I mean, it's better to tighten down the lock screw, but you might be surprised. It is the same story. Like, for example, if I got an external battery and a monitor here, then it would be heavier than 2 kilos. And so I'm switching to 3, and now it is not engaged totally. I have to move back. Now it's engaged, and the counterweight works. So I think if you got a heavy expensive gear on the head, you should be aware when you're changing the counterweight. You should just have the handle in your hand, then you can change it. And I changed to 4. This time it's engaged, but I changed to 3 and it is freely moving. So if I would just change it and let the handle go, the lens would crash into the tripod or into the head. So that's the really surprising thing. Yeah, and it was the same when I switched to 2. So you have to be aware when you're switching the counterweight value, you should switch and engage, and then you're good to go. I think to know. And this is the same story for the drag. First of all, you need to set the drag exactly on the arrow and the dot here, but it's still not engaged, and now it is engaged. So you hear the click, you hear the pop, and now drag is engaged. So I guess you shouldn't be worried about that. It rather won't damage your gear, but you should be aware, because if you're planning to for example, take a slower pan, and you got your talent ready and you say roll, and then you're trying to pan, but the first move would be really fast, then the drag would engage, so your take would be lost, I'd say. So it is also good to know that when you set the drag, you should move it a bit, then it is engaged, and then you can continue shooting. But the counterweight thing is really important, because when you switch the counterweight, you can actually damage your gear. So this got the side loaded mechanism, which I think is better, because you just put it here, pop, and screw in with one screw. There is also top loaded plate, but the top loaded plate got a smaller play back and forth. This basically got twice as play to move back and forth if you want to calibrate the head, because when you pop this down, you actually have to unlock it, put it on drag 0, and see if your camera is front heavy or back heavy, and then adjust. I know where this setup should be set, so it's easy, but when you got a smaller lens, it's not that obvious. Then you screw it in and you're done. But with side mounted plate, you got twice as big amount of move back and forth to set the center of gravity properly. With the top loaded plate, it's not that obvious, and also the top loaded plates are quite uncommon, so it's not very compatible solution. So this one is better in my opinion. For my Benro tripod, the mounting bolt is something like that, so it is quite small and got 3/8 thread in it. So most of the heads got 3/8 bolt to mount it with the imperial thread. So I was kind of surprised to see that this is the metric bolt, so it's 10mm metric bolt. So the other screw is not compatible with this. But fortunately they supply this with the head itself. But to mount it, I have to put it down there, and as you can see, it is almost longer than the legs. So when I would like to use such position, I cannot, because this is too long. There are mounts like that available with the metric screw, I think, on Amazon or probably any video store, but they are quite expensive, like 30 bucks. So if you think you can get a head and mount it on the tripod you got, you might be surprised, because not every tripod is tall enough to accommodate this big mounting piece. So you need to plan ahead, no pun intended, to buy such metric screw. Maybe there are two versions of this head. Maybe there is a metric version for European customers, and maybe there is an imperial one. I don't know, I haven't found that information on the Sachtler site or in the manual, but for sure I got the metric one, so I have to buy this also in metric to be compatible with Benro tripod. And also you cannot spread the legs of Flowtech totally if you are using the long one, so it might be useful to get it. So how easy is to mount it? I'd say not that easy. It takes around 30 seconds, because you have to feel around with this bit and the bolt, which is not protruding that much. Oh, this time I got it the first try, but then you have to turn and turn and turn and turn and turn to get it secure. Turn and turn, yeah. And then you have to set the level, so It takes a bit also, but I think I'm getting better and better. Although it's not, oh yeah, not, no. Not that easy. It's better idea to tighten both clamps, and still not that easy. If you want this perfect, yes, I got it perfect, but it took like 20 seconds probably, so it's not that easy to mount it and set it up as quickly as it's advertised on YouTube. Maybe I would get better and better, but we'll see. Regarding the panning, it actually doesn't matter how heavy is the setup or how light it is. It works the same with the Blackmagic fully rigged, so it's like 4.5 kilograms, and the same is for a 6600 with the smallest lens. Panning moves are all the same, and it doesn't matter. So you set the drag to set the speed of your pan, and that's it. But it's not that easy with the tilt. So at the moment I got camera fairly calibrated in terms of the center of gravity, but if I got counterweight 1 with the setup, which is a bit below 2 kilos but above 1, now the camera creeps back and forward, so I have to switch to counterweight 2, engage the counterweight, and now it's a bit too much, because as you can see, without any drag it moves back, so it should be like 1.5 kilograms, but it's not. This head is quite big, so it is rather designed for bigger cameras, but maybe I will get bigger later, and also when I be using anamorphic Atlas lens, for example, it is much heavier than this Sigma, so it is quite useful to get a big head. But when I set the drag to, for example, 3, and it's engaged, it's also creeping a bit, but much slower. With setting 4, it is engaged. It is also creeping very slowly. With the setting 5, when it's engaged, it's not creeping. But generally, you should lock your head anytime you move it. You are doing the tilt shot, and then you lock it with the screw, and it stays there. So it's not a big problem. Although you have to be aware that the settings are with 1 kilogram increments, so it's not that you would set this correctly or to the gram. Of course, you can mount some weights to make it exactly 2 kilos or 1 kilo or 3 kilos. But I guess it's not an optional set to mount some weights whenever you change the lens. So, but anyway, it's not a big issue, because actually you got the locking screw and you can lock it in any position. The only thing you should be aware that if your counterweight is too much, then your camera would be moving and there might be some damage if you're not very careful with it, because if this is on setting 0, then it just bounces. So and also if this is too low, then your lens can crash into the tripod and you won't be happy. Anyway, I'm really happy from the purchase. The MPB experience, it was also quite good, although might be better. So I'd say I'm very happy with the purchase. And this is a solid piece of gear. I shot like 100, maybe 200 pounds already, and I'm quite happy with the outcome from this head. So that's I say it's a really good piece of gear. Although it got its quirks, especially the counterweight that you need to engage this. I haven't seen such information in the manual, so you might be surprised that you break your cook anamorphic lens when you mount it and you change the counterweight and you forget to engage it and it breaks, bouncing the tripod or the head, so you have to be aware about this. And also you have to engage the drag when you change the setting. I'm not sure how it works with the new, maybe that's because it's used and maybe it's broken, I don't know, but it doesn't seem so, so you have to be aware of this. But generally how this works, it's really nice, so you can elevate your panning shots using such a head. Why I got 8? Because I think maybe in the future I would get bigger camera, so I'm prepared for that, and it works fine with the Blackmagic, although I would like if there would be setting for 0.5 kilogram and 1.5, because when you change lenses with Blackmagic you don't jump with the 1 kilogram increments, so you have to either choose a bit of the underweight with setting 1, or in some cases it is a bit too much with the 2 kilo of the counterweight. But if you adjust the drag, it's not that annoying, although sometimes when you leave the camera it may creep up. So yeah, but generally I can recommend the head, and now there is a new model available, so maybe it's worth considering, because there are more settings for the counterweight and more settings of drag, at least for the FSB8. For the lower models it's not. And the battery is actually here, so it's a small button. Battery is here, 2032, and I got the working battery from MPB. So, but I guess it's a really simple piece of gear, and at the same time really genius and works really well. So you may think about the new version, because got more levels of drag and more levels of the counterweight, but it depends how much you are willing to pay, because I think the new one is like 1.5k euros, so quite expensive, and this one was around 800 minus tax deduction, so probably ended up being 750, something like that. I also got the Sachtler FSB8, but I bought it separately, so there is a review for Sachtler incoming also, because I have shot with the combo for around a month and I got quite experienced with it, but I need more space to showcase the tripod, so that needs to be outside. Cheers, mate.